So we're going to begin. We're holding in the middle of a series, the challenges, the struggles, and the trials of the 21st century. As I've mentioned in previous lectures, we're facing many, many difficulties in this generation that our forefathers did not have. Life today in many ways is more comfortable. Perhaps certain things are more convenient. We're able to fly across the globe in only a couple of hours. So there's no doubt that life today is not only different, in many ways it has become easier. And we would think that because of all the ease that we have, we would be happier. We would have less troubles. What's interesting is that it's exactly the opposite. We have more troubles than our forefathers, than our parents and grandparents had in the past. And one of the greatest, I think, the greatest challenge of all, the most difficult challenge, perhaps of all the challenges that we're going to be talking about, is how to manage stress. Stress. Now, stress is something that always existed, but I think all the experts will agree that today there's a lot more stress than in the past. And when they say how to manage stress, I think manage is a good word because you cannot eliminate it. And some stress is good, as we will see. So it's not about getting rid of stress, it's about managing it properly. There's good stress and there's bad stress. What I want to do is perhaps just review a little bit what the experts, psychologists, doctors, and other professionals, what they have to say about stress and how they have dealt with it, the advice that they have given us. A lot of good advice is out there, but not all this advice is good for everyone. There's some general advice that is definitely something that we need to adapt in our lifestyle. But there's also a spiritual side to all of this, and that is not something that is dealt with in psychology. Some of it is, but a lot of it is overlooked, or simply they do not have this information that the Torah, that the rabbis share with us. So that's what I would like to do, is just begin to define what stress is, what it does to us, how to recognize it, the symptoms, and how to alleviate it, how to manage it properly in the physical way. And then we'll go over to the more spiritual side of it. This is a topic that every one of us can gain from, even myself. After all, no one can claim that he has no stress. However, when I say we can gain from it, this is on condition that we review from time to time the points. I think this is true about almost any topic that we're covering. It's not enough to just hear it once, to learn it once. It's important from time to time to review the main points. Otherwise, we forget. You know, here I'm about to say things that I truly believe in. I know they're true. And I do not necessarily adapt to myself. I also sometimes fail to adapt or to apply that which I know is helpful and is good, because we forget. We're forgetful. We don't review. Or we get carried away. That's okay. That's human nature. That is why the Torah is so important, to continuously learn, continuously review, not only to remember the valuable lessons, but to gain additional insight, which we may not have had last year, the last time we read, the last time we attended a class. So all of this is very, very valuable, especially when we're dealing with a topic that is so relevant, that affects everyone. I think a good place to start is with what Kohelet says. Kohelet, Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, or as his book is known, Ecclesiastes. This is a very, very important book. It is a composition that he put together, they say, at the end of his life. After he has seen so much, he's gone through so much, he's experienced a lot. And here he is sharing with us all his wisdom. And for those of you who remember, we gave various classes on the entire book, many, many valuable lessons, and they are on YouTube under Kohelet or Ecclesiastes. The many classes, depending of course on the chapter, you will see. If you have the time, many, many valuable lessons that are found in that book. Solomon also has another valuable book called Mishlei, Proverbs, which we also have a lot of lectures on, and B'ezrat Hashem, God willing, those will be uploaded as well. Important to learn. It's important to review the wisdom of the sages of the past, because what they've said still applies today, perhaps even more so today than in the past. So Solomon, in this book called Kohelet, makes a very powerful statement that was even intriguing to our sages. He said, Hevel Havalim, everything is just a bunch of vanities. Life is just so vain, so full of vanities. And what's vanities? Vanities means, you know what, there's a lot of waste of time, a lot of futile effort going into all kinds of things that man pursues, and it doesn't really do him any good. So a lot of life is wasted. A lot of what people pursue, a lot of the interest that people have is just really vain. It's vanities. It's worthless. It's not important. Or as we would say in Hebrew, shtuyot. It's a bunch of nonsense. But people make a big deal of nonsense. And when you see that verse and you look at that statement, and you wonder to yourself, everything is hevel avalim? Everything is vanities? That doesn't sound too good. There's a lot of good things in this world too. So for that, you have to read the end of Kohelet. And when you reach the end of Kohelet, reach the end of the book, then you see what he meant in the beginning and what he really values. What is really valuable, what is truly important in life. Sof davar hakol nishma. Et Elohim yirav et mitzvotav shemo ki zeh kol adam. In the end, what really matters the most is fear of God. Observe his commandments. Be a good person. Do the right thing. Don't worry about the world. Don't worry about fixing the world. Don't preoccupy yourself with all the vanities. They will distract you from your mission. They will not allow you to be happy and have peace of mind. So concentrate on the ikar, on the priorities, which, as we will explain towards the end, is really the key to managing stress properly, or one of the keys, and that is focus on what's truly important, what really matters, because there's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't matter at all. It's nonsense, it's vanities, it's tafel, it's not the ikar, it's secondary, it's not priority number one. So we need to identify what is truly a priority and what's not. But we don't have the time to go through all of what is really a priority in this lecture. But this is the main idea. This is the key. One of the messages that Solomon is telling us, that people get caught up in the vanities of life. And they're vanities. Why get upset about things that don't really matter, that are not important? So this is a difficult area in our life. And the reason why it's more difficult today than in the past, I blame it on the D's. The letter D. We have more demands, we have more deadlines, we have more duties than in the past. How do you like that? Right? Deadlines, demands, duties, all three Ds. We're not done. These three Ds, you know what they cause us? Some more Ds. Doctor, divorces, and God forbid death. You see, all these. Yeah, a lot of tension, a lot of pressures that unfortunately take a toll on one's health, physical health, on his body, and on his mind. People are taking pills this day more than ever. Why? Obviously, they're being stressed out, they're depressed, which we spoke about already earlier, about depression. So we can see that this is a bigger problem today than in the past. But as I began to say, some stress is good. Some stress is healthy because it actually enables us to perform better. When you're under stress, a good, healthy stress, you're able to be motivated to accomplish something, to achieve, to get the job done. So sometimes it's healthy, it's necessary. What's really bad is if that stress is constant, if it's there all the time or very often, that is when we get into trouble. That is when it could be very, very unhealthy. If we were to describe it on a very, very simplistic level, what stress does to us, the bad stress, is throws us off balance. In other words, here we would like to have a life that is regulated, even though not everybody wants to be regulated. What I mean by regulated is that things are pretty much predictable, things are constant, things are normal, no real ups and downs. But that's what life is all about, ups and downs. There are hassles that we have to deal with all the time. Issues that come up, many of them unforeseen. And because they're unforeseen, they're sudden, they stress us out. So the balance that we would like to have is thrown off. Now, the natural stress that everyone has can be seen at times of danger. In times of danger, we actually react differently than we are not in danger. So this stress during times of whether it's real danger or imagined danger. Sometimes people imagine that they're being threatened. So these imaginary threats, or even if they are real, they bring out this stress. They produce this stress, which actually enables us to confront it in a certain way. So naturally, this is supposed to be there. It exists there. God put it in place because the body is supposed to react in a certain way under different circumstances, different conditions. So sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's acceptable, it's normal, it's actually beneficial for the human being to have this stress. It's just when it's there all the time. That's when it begins to be a problem. Especially if it's exaggerated. When stress is exaggerated, one of the immediate results that you can actually see it on people, I mean, you may not be able to detect it right away, depending on how much time you spend with them, is that it takes a toll on the moods, people's moods, mood swings. They are partially have to do with stress. That's number one. The more painful one, the more complicated one, the more difficult one, I'm talking about the consequences of stress, is the relationship of a couple, relationship of friends, relationship between people. That's where the result or the consequence of the stress can be very, very damaging. I mean, of course, we said that it's damaging to the physical body, it's damaging to the mind, but where it really can do a lot of damage, which is very difficult to repair, is a relationship. If a relationship is stressed out and it's not brought under control, it could have been potentially a good relationship, but because of the stress, it harms the whole relationship because the feelings are cooled off. The mood is not there. And I can go on and give you more examples of what the professionals say of what it does to the quality of life of this couple, of each individual and of the two of them together between each other. We're just trying to be brief over here in just describing what this does. It takes a toll on one's physical body, on his mind, and on the relationship. But if it's properly channeled, if it's not exaggerated, it could help people focus, it could help people stay alert because they're stressed, because there's a little bit of an anxiety in them. It could help them. It could help them face the challenge that is coming. So don't get me wrong, stress can be good if it's managed properly, the healthy type of stress. But when it's really bad, it can be very, very damaging. How do you identify, how do you see it on people? What are the symptoms? We need to remember that stress comes in two types, in two forms. One is internal and one can be external. the internal one you won't necessarily see on someone. He could internally be experiencing all kinds of fears and insecurities and be stressed out because of that. You can't see it. And he doesn't even know it himself, that he's actually going through stress because of these insecurities that he has. All kinds of phobias, all kinds of fears. We're not necessarily talking about unfounded fears. There's a lot of that too, but even real. But we can't see it, and neither does he know about it. It's internal. Now, I don't know if it's the majority of the time, but quite a few examples of stress are related to one's job. Stress at work, stress because of a change of profession, stress because of, trying to get a good grade in school, tests, exams, right? All kinds of stressful situations at home with the children or the couple themselves. Or the biggest, I think perhaps the biggest type of stress or cause of stress is financial problems. So you see, these are different kinds, but it's a little bit more external. These are things that are happening on the outside. Things that are happening perhaps on a regular basis that bring about tremendous amount of stress. And the symptoms that they will bring is as follows. This is all from what the professionals have described. These type of external situations can be seen in the following symptoms. You can see somebody worried all the time. This is externally. You can see it in how he talks, how he behaves. He's having a hard time concentrating. He is very negative about everything. Negativity. He has a short fuse or short temper. Gets angry very often. He feels overwhelmed. What's the big deal? It's not such a big load. Why are you exaggerating about this responsibilities or this job that you have? It's not such a big deal. But he's taking it, he or she is taking it very difficult. They feel overwhelmed. That's stress. Even though somebody else would not be overwhelmed. It's not such a big load. Why do you feel overwhelmed? It's stress. Another very typical, I think it's very typical symptom of stress that the professionals have written about is that a lot of people who have this problem have a hard time relaxing. You know, here, relaxation would actually be something beneficial to them. It would help them. But they have a hard time relaxing. They even have a hard time falling asleep. A lot of them have pain, all kinds of pain, all over the place. Back pain, headaches too. From what? Stress. Diarrhea. Did you think of that one? No, not because you ate something not good. Not necessarily. It could be from stress, nervousness, yes. Yeah. And what's another one? A fast heartbeat. Also, stress. And here's one that you may not have realized, but if I remind you, you will say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Eating too much or not eating enough. You see the extremes? Either one of the two could be stress related. Some people, when they're under stress, they start eating a lot. A lot of cakes, chocolates, right? Or not eating enough. You see both opposites, both extremes. Another possibility that sometimes happens is that they don't take their duties or their responsibilities seriously anymore. They basically ignore or shy away from what they should be doing. And that's, that's very, very sad. In other words, something that they used to do well, perhaps, something that they understood the importance of it, they just let go of it. They lose interest in it. And this, of course, has consequences in many areas of life. These symptoms can produce a very, very poor type of relationship. They can lead to tremendous troubles at home and at work if an individual is going through some problem in life that is stressing him out. Perhaps one more that I think that I have noticed in some people who are stressed out is that they tend to bite their fingernails. I don't know if you've noticed that, but that is also something that is seen. Some people have this. There was ordinarily, some people are always chewing at their fingernails all the time, but people who are stressed out, they may do that. Now, I can go on and give you more things that people would do, but this is a general overview of some of the external symptoms that can be observable, where people even themselves may not know that they're going through stress, but these are all symptoms of stress. But now I have to warn you of something very, very important. Is this for sure stress? No. This could be another medical problem. And therefore, anybody that has any of those, or the majority of these examples that I mentioned, should really go see a doctor. Diarrhea could be all kinds of things. I just gave one example, right? Person who has a hard time falling asleep may have other issues. Pain, a headache, fast heartbeat. These are dangerous things. In other words, if anybody has any of the symptoms that I mentioned really, and it's going on for a while, should really see a doctor. I mean, somebody who can't concentrate. There are other reasons of why this is happening to him, not necessarily only stress. Okay, how do people react to all of this, to all of these difficulties that they have in life? People react differently. Even though it produces stress in many people, reaction is differently. Because reaction has to do with the tolerance level. Some people tolerate the stress better than others. Very simple. So what? Big deal. Okay, fine. They're stressed. They feel it. They feel differently, but their tolerance level is different. And because of that, they can manage it more easily. So that can be different in every individual. Why would people have a different tolerance level? This is important to know. Why people react differently to stress. I think one possibility is they're simply more self-confident. Anybody who has more confidence in himself is stronger. His reactions, therefore, are very, very different than one who's not as self-confident. So I think this one is an easy one. Self-confidence will definitely make a difference. Person who has control over the situation, even though he's stressed out, but he has control. If he has control, some level of control over the situation, obviously his reaction will be different than one who doesn't have control. But I prefer to emphasize some things that we really can make a difference in, things that we can really change if we choose to. And that is our approach and our outlook, which I've mentioned in earlier lectures. Approach and outlook is something that we can change. Human nature is difficult to change. How are we going to change ourselves? We can learn good habits. We can definitely try to restrain ourselves from doing certain things that are not good. But outlook is so, so important. It makes a world of a difference on how we will react, how will we handle all kinds of situations. And one of my favorites, when it comes to stress especially, is sense of humor. If you have a good sense of humor, then hopefully, even though you're stressed out, it will go away quickly. Sense of humor is so important. And I'm going to come back to it a little bit later. This will make a world of a difference if somebody can manage his stress properly or not. In other words, his tolerance level will be okay. It will be strong enough to carry on despite the stress. Makes a difference if he can calm himself down too. Some people cannot calm themselves. They need somebody else to calm them. They're very angry. They're very upset. If they have this problem, then obviously it's going to be difficult for them to manage their stress. So depending on how much he can control himself, can he calm himself down, can he get out of this depression or sadness that he's in. If people can handle that on their own without outside help, then obviously they can deal with the stress better. Okay, so now we've come to the point of where we see that this is definitely something that is affecting all of us in this generation, definitely causing tremendous amount of damage, unfortunately, health-wise and otherwise. What is the advice given by the professionals on how to manage it? Like I said earlier, we're going to go through that first and then see a little bit of what the spiritual side of it is all about and what can be done. Professionals say that in order to succeed, to manage stress properly, one has to take charge. When they say to take charge, it means that we have to assume a certain responsibility here and decide for ourselves we're not going to let this ruin our life. You know, we're going to do something about it, and we're going to hopefully seek help if necessary. We're not just going to let it eat us up, in other words, bother us, and just go on suffering unnecessarily. We're going to take charge. So how do you take charge? What do you do? There's all kinds of situations that are difficult to deal with. I mean, not everything can be dealt with the way we would like it. Let's take the first example. Let's say you have a situation where you can't change. You can't change the situation. That's it. It's stressing you out, but it's one of those situations that you can't change. So what's the advice? Live with it. It was accepted. You can't change it. Why worry about it? Why, eat yourself up? Just, accept it. If some things you cannot solve, fix, accept it. Now remember, this is what the professionals are telling us, but it's not enough. It's not enough. Remember I told you once, if somebody is married to a spouse who always gives them a hard time, and initially, the way they dealt with it was to yell back or to criticize, because it's hard to control yourself. And then they learned their lesson and they said, you know what, this is not helping me, it's not helping the other side. If I criticize, yell back, even though all you're doing is defending yourself from an accusation that is totally false, but it's not helpful. So from now on, I'm going to keep quiet. Shut my mouth. And you do that, and you do that, and you do that, and it helps a little bit. At least you're not getting angry. At least the argument lasts 5 minutes instead of a half an hour. But is that the solution? No. Because if you keep your mouth shut, it doesn't mean that you're not upset anymore. You could be very bitter, disappointed, right, inside. Just because you're controlling yourself, you haven't really solved the problem. Now, we're not trying to solve the problem completely, because that would require the other side to change and do something. But that's not going to happen. So what do you do instead? The best solution is to make nothing of it. Poor person, poor fellow, whoever it is, a friend, a partner, a spouse, poor fellow, that they feel that way, that they talk like that they behave that way. I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm calm. I realize it's their nature. I tried my best. I'll just forget about it. Like this, at least you're eating yourself up with it. You follow me? That's the correct solution. That solution does not easily come from just this advice that I'm giving you. It's going to require understanding this symptom or this problem from the spiritual side, which we're going to get to in a moment. But in general, if you can't fix a problem, just accept it if you have no other choice. What is very helpful to accept a problem, you can't just say, I'm going to accept it. No. What is very helpful to accepting problems and living with them is called flexibility. If you're flexible, you just take it easy. Girnade. Just let it go. Be flexible. Don't be a pessimist. Pessimism means that you don't believe that this may ever have a cure. No, don't be a pessimist. Things can change. One of these days, things can change for the better. So be flexible. Don't be a pessimist. And if you really, really want to succeed in all kinds of situations where things are not exactly the way you would want them to be, how you would do it, one piece of advice is don't try to be a perfectionist. Because if you will, many people will not. And guess what? You'll be very upset and nervous because you're a perfectionist. It's good to try to be a little bit of a perfectionist. A little bit, it's okay, you know, but don't overdo it. Take it easy. No one is perfect anyway. And if you're going to be a perfectionist, you're going to demand that of others too, somewhat. People who are clean cannot stand it when others are not clean. You know? Now, be clean, of course. Be clean, be organized, and try to do things as best as possible, but just remember, not everybody's going to be like you. So don't try to be too much of a perfectionist. And this will all help in accepting people or accepting situations that really you cannot change. These that I just mentioned, perfectionism, pessimism, or flexibility or lack of flexibility, you know where they're very helpful? They're helpful in the area called peace of mind. People do not always have peace of mind. They're very nervous because they're demanding. They demand of themselves and they demand of others. It's very simple. They're not bad. A person could be very demanding of himself, and that is why he's demanding of others. He's not just demanding of others, he's demanding also of himself. So you want to be calm, you want to have peace of mind. Just be flexible and be easygoing. No one is perfect. It's also very much advisable for people who have all kinds of hardships in life and they really have a stressful job or whatever it is that's giving them a lot of stress. Get enough sleep. If you're not going to have enough sleep and you're going to be stressed out, it's going to make things worse. It's important to get enough sleep. It's important to relax once in a while. You know how many people are committing suicide I hear today in Japan because of the stress of work and work and work and work? Is that all what life is all about? After a while, they're going to go to a park where where they jump off a cliff. It's called Suicide Cliff. All the stress, all the traffic, you know, congestion in the train. That's not what life is all about. Go relax a little bit. Get enough sleep. And they recommend, the experts recommend, rightfully so, to do some exercise. Yeah, be active, do other things. Eat healthy food. And stay away from people who are nervous and who are stressed, if you can. You know? These are all things that can be done. Unless it's your family. If it's a member of your family who's stressing you out, you can't just avoid them, then what do? So let's spend a couple minutes on this, because this is something that comes up all the time. I'm asked this question: what do I do? This is my mother-in-law, this is my father-in-law, this is my sister-in-law, and we can't just not live close to them, can't just move away. Dealing with difficult people is really a whole talk in itself. But this is similar to what we just finished saying, a little similar, that when you have a situation where you cannot fix, accept it. But this one, you don't need to accept 100%. You try your best to avoid it. This you can. I mean, after all, you're not living underneath the same roof. Husband and wife is already a different story. You have to learn how to communicate. There's a lot of things a couple needs to learn in order to get along. But if you're dealing with certain individuals that you can avoid, try to avoid them if they are stressing you out. But what happens when you're in their proximity? Well, I should say they are in your proximity, right? What do? something that is very valuable in life, that can be very useful at times of litigation, fights, in all kinds of argumentative situations, is to learn to give in. Nothing wrong to give in. You know, in some countries, giving in is a weakness. You know, they call you a friar in Israel. You know, you're a sucker. No, giving in is a quick way sometimes to resolve a very contentious situation. If it's possible to easily give in. Or to explain to the other person. Take the time to explain, no, this very, very much bothers me. It's really, really difficult for me. I can't handle it. Explain, communication. But I prefer sometimes, if it's possible, to just let go and not insist on having it your way. Let me share with you a story that happened that sheds a lot of light on the benefits of giving in. There was once a rabbi who acted as an arbitrator between two individuals, right? Let's call one Reuven, the other one Shimon. Shimon came to see the rabbi. Please arbitrate, decide. You be the judge as to who's right and who's wrong. So the rabbi hears one side first. He hears him and says, you know what? You're right. I agree. You are 100% right. Then he hears the other one, Shimon. You know what? You're also right. So the wife of the rabbi comes in. Says, my husband, how could they both be right? You're also right. Everybody's right. You're right. That's a very, to me, I found this to be a very valuable, useful key in dealing with all kinds of difficult situations. You're right. Next time we'll try to do it differently. Why argue? You can't fight City Hall sometimes. You're facing a wall. You're right. Yeah. Complain. You're right. So this is a form of giving in. Did you really give in something? All you did was say you're right. This could be very helpful. Yes, you're right. What can we do? It's true. You have a point. This way you lower a little bit the temperature, of the stress of the atmosphere, in the room. The person might still be stressed out, might still be nervous, might still be upset, but at least you have control. You're managing it. And later on, of course, you'll try to avoid it. But when you can't avoid, just give in if you can. It's important to always keep in mind that because we can't change every situation, it's easier to change our approach, how we relate to something. That is more easily done. How are we going to change the situation? How are you going to change people? But how you relate to them, poor fellow, as we said earlier, doesn't know any better. What can we do? He needs help. She needs help. So how we relate, how we see the situation makes a world of a difference. This is really sad, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's just sad. I'm relating to it in a different way, in a more positive way. I'm identifying, in a sense, with this individual who may be a very difficult individual. I'm empathizing, perhaps even, with him. Not that I need to, but it's helping me. It's helping those who don't want to be stressed out because of the problem. Yeah. I'm relating to it differently. That we can change, how we look at things. And, of course, something that is very, very advisable is when we find ourselves overwhelmed with all kinds of things that we can't do, or we're not accomplishing as much as we'd like to do, or we're falling behind. If you make yourself a list of what you need to do, put 2 columns on the list. These are should do them, and these are must do them. And you're going to hopefully concentrate and focus on what you must do, not what you should do. Well, I should do a lot of things. I need to do all kinds of things, but not must. maybe that will take away a little bit of the overwhelming feeling of, oh, such a big load. This can wait. This can happen very easily to anyone, that he feels overwhelmed because all of a sudden, at some point in his life, so many things are happening. And he feels, oh, it's just too much to bear. Right? Make a list. Some things you don't have to do now. They'll just have to wait. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing will happen if you push them off. I'm not into procrastination. I don't advise procrastination. That's not a good idea. But to alleviate being overwhelmed when a person can easily become overwhelmed, I mean, that's just a fact. Make a list of what's really important, what's not as important, what you have to do, what you don't have to do. Now, in order to be able to properly evaluate the situation, to evaluate what the problem is, where is the stress coming from, it's also important to identify what's happening in this person's life. Is it just that he has bad habits that he's not managing and he's being stressed out? Is he just someone who was always getting angry? Or is it somebody that always has a lot of anxiety attacks because he's so unsure about the future, he's worried? I mean, we want to properly manage the stress. We need to identify where it's coming from. Why is this happening to him? Because, I mean, we want to give him the right advice. So that's also an important point, is identify what really is happening so that we can know how to deal with it as best as possible. One idea that I did not see any expert talk about, even though they will all agree with this idea, for some reason they don't list this. There's a lot of material, good material on how to manage stress. It's all good and it helps. And remember, as we said before, some of it helps certain people, other ideas help other people. Here is one that I think can help everyone. For some reason they don't mention it, at least I haven't seen it. The rabbis mention it, but it is accepted in the professional field. It's called taking a hot shower. Try it. I'm sure, I mean, you've done it. Hot bath, hot shower. A hot shower, a hot bath, alleviates pressure, nervousness, pain, certain types of pain. It really does. The rabbis tell us this. A hot shower is really, really beneficial. Forget about the cleaning that it does. Not just cleaning you. Having all that hot water, not boiling water, hot water, right, coming down on your head, with a good shower head, it's even better. The stronger shower, it's a mini massage. What does this do? It helps circulate the blood. It has a lot, I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole anatomy here of the human body, or what exactly happens in the human body, but this is a fact. I know sometimes I'm very tired, you know, I just can't take the shower now, I'm going to push it off till tomorrow morning. But then I push myself and say, oh, I'm glad I did. It's such a wonderful feeling, especially if you had a hard day, right? Challenging day. I'm telling you, I assure you, this is really, really beneficial. And it's something that can easily be done if you have a shower, right? Okay, now let's go into the spiritual aspect. There's a lot of good advice there, but this is also very, very important because we want to get to the bottom of it. We want to really resolve it, not on a temporary basis. We try to really take control over stress and not just manage it, but have a better handle of it. So we need to understand it from the spiritual side. There's a verse, a famous verse in Yeshayahu, Isaiah the prophet. Ish et re'ehu ya'zoru u'le'achim yomar chazak. Even though that verse can be interpreted in various ways, the basic translation is that each one should turn to his fellow, to his friend, and tell him, strengthen yourself. In other words, encourage your fellow, your friend. If you see that they need help, if they're depressed, if they are feeling down, nervous, whatever it is, ish et re'o, if you have it within you, because of your close relationship to that individual, to say some words to them, to calm them down, do so. People cannot help themselves always on their own. So Yeshayahu, Isaiah is telling us that this interpretation is really adapted to all kinds of situations where people can be of a help, tremendous help to another individual by reassuring them, speaking to them. Be strong. And you know where this is lacking and really, really should be adapted, very, very much adapted, is in one's home, husband and wife. We sometimes fail to do that. We don't realize that the reason why God brought two people together is because each one can help the other in some way. They complement each other if they're true soulmates. Well, that is why you got married. If the other one is nervous, guess who's the one that needs to calm them down? And we forget that. They can't necessarily calm themselves down. I mean, obviously, if you want to try, there's ways to do it on your own. But if not, they need help. And who's going to give them the help? The closest person to them. So whether this is a relationship between husband and wife, whether this is brothers and sisters, right, friends and partners, ishet re'u yazoru, they should try to help each other in any way they can to reassure them, to build up their self-esteem, to give them strength. That is why the rabbis tell us that when you give money to a poor man, you're blessed with 6 blessings. But when you say a kind word to them and reassure them, you receive an additional 11 blessings, 17 total. For saying a kind word, you get more blessings than for giving them money, which they really need. Yes, but the words of empathy, of reassurance, are more valuable perhaps to that individual than the money that you're giving them. They feel down, they're begging. It feels terrible to beg and to ask people for a favor. So you reassuring them, giving them the money as well, some support, perhaps advice, whatever it is that can help them, will go a long way. Words that encourage, words that strengthen, make people happy. And that is something that is missing in many people these days. They're not happy. And when people are unhappy, well, it's terrible. It's a terrible feeling. So that is why it's a big mitzvah. So it's a very, very special deed to give people encouragement, reassure them, much more than the money that you're giving them. Strengthening one's faith. Emunah. We'll be talking about it in the coming lectures, God willing, a few weeks from now, about how in this generation true and pure faith is lacking. It's very, very weak. People don't have the proper outlook because they're not strong in their faith in God or in their trust in God. So emunah is something so powerful that the rabbis tell us that if one really has true and pure faith in God, they will open the gates of compassion over him. It was from Shamayim, from heaven. They will show him the way out of it, the problem that he has. If he has true faith in God, that triggers the gates of mercy to open up on him. In the same way that pure faith is important, more so trust, bitachon in God. Bitachon is a higher level of faith. I trust in God, I rely on him. I know everything that is happening with me is for my good. Why is trust more powerful than faith? Because trust can bring something that faith alone does not, and that is happiness. When one has faith in God, that's very powerful. When one trusts in God, he can be happy. How is he going to be happy? Because one of the immediate results of true trust in God is contentment. I'm satisfied with what I have. I don't need all the riches and the luxuries. I'm fine. Everything is okay. That's all he wants me to have. Had he wanted me to have millions, he would have sent me the millions. If he does not want it, then that's the way it needs to be. And I'm happy with whatever he sends me. So this midah of histapkut, as it's called in Hebrew, being content and satisfied with the little you have, is connected to happiness. People who are not happy is because they're not content with what they have. They want more, or they're not happy because of the situation. Trusting God that whatever needs to happen, that will happen. That will help with being content. Being content, trusting in God, will enable a person to truly be happy. So bitachon enables one to be happy much more than just plain emunah, faith in God. You believe in God, God created the world, yes, God is involved. And obviously He listens to our prayers, but do you trust Him 100%? If you were just fired from the job, do you trust that it's for your own good that this happened? It's a big difference. A lot of people believe, they have faith, but they don't trust. And when you don't trust, you become nervous, you become tense, and what am I going to do, what's going to happen? And it's not fair, and it's not right, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to... Well, wait a minute. What about the boss? You don't think he's involved? You don't think that he's managing his affairs? You don't think he's directing your life? It takes bitachon. If a person has real bitachon, trust in God, it's easier for him to be happy and content with whatever situation he's dealing with. And we spoke about this when we talked about adversity, people coping with adversity. In other areas in life where people are being challenged. Another idea that is extremely important, and this is a mitzvah from the Torah for the Jewish people, kedoshim to you, to be a holy nation. What's holiness? Be holy. What am I going to do to be holy? Holiness means a close relationship with God. You want to elevate yourself to be close to Him. And elevating yourself means not to be so materialistic, not to be attached to the ground, because you want to elevate, right? You want to become more spiritual. You want to be holy. Holy means elevated. Elevated spiritually means less materialistic. And as a result of that, a closer relationship with God. Pure. This requires a lot of work. And this is, of course, a completely different topic, how one goes about becoming a holy human being. But if a person is able to follow that path of holiness, obviously he'll have less worries, less anxiety, less things that will bother him. Then there's an important verse that can apply to everyone, even if he's in a lower level. And that is, Lo taturu achrei lebavchem v'achrei einechem. We say in the Kriyat Shema, we say, don't go after what your heart desires and after what your eyes see. Be careful with exposure to the outside world. What you hear, what you see, is contaminating many, many people's minds. It's polluting them. It's polluting a lot of people in wanting to have all these crazy things, being swept into the trend of whatever is going on these days in the outside world. This is causing pressures too. People are being swept by this trend, by the latest style. You know what the latest style is? You got to wear this. You know, and I'm sorry to say it to the women, but many of them have this weakness that they have to follow the latest style. You know, I asked my wife, why aren't you wearing this beautiful dress that you have in your closet for the past 5 years? She tells me it's not in style anymore, but it's so beautiful. Can't you just wear it because it's beautiful? No, I have to follow the style. Oh, I feel sorry if you're a slave of the style. Somebody's sitting in Paris deciding what people should wear, and everybody has to follow blindly. It's a certain weakness. Why can't you be yourself? Why don't you wear what you really like, what's beautiful? No, it's not the style. You can't wear it. You can't wear certain things in the winter if they really should be only worn in the spring. You know, it's a rule that women tell me. That if it's meant for the winter, you're not allowed to wear it in the spring. And if it's meant for the spring, don't wear it in the winter. It won't look right. Okay. You know, I can't argue with this because, you know, as a man, we don't understand the psychology or the mentality over here. I'm not saying it's right or wrong necessarily. I'm just saying that this causes a little bit of stress too. Because, oh, you see, you know, what are they going to say if I wear this? The mind is being influenced by what others are going to say, by what others do. The Torah is warning us, be careful. Don't allow yourself to be swept by the trend, by the style, by what people are saying. It's going to bother you. Somewhere it's going to bother you. So therefore, maintain a clean head, so your thoughts are not going to be influenced by the outside world. For the men, of course, the learning of the Torah is very special. The Torah gladdens our heart. The Torah gives us direction. The Torah gives us strength to be able to overcome the evil inclination. This is all very important for the men, to continuously learn Torah. Without Torah, we're missing a tremendous source of strength and inspiration and guidance. Because there's so many temptations today, and because there's so many things that can easily bring unnecessary stress, there's so much that we can do. The rest, we need to ask God for His assistance. So prayer, as always, is always something very, very valuable. To pray to God to help us overcome any difficulties, any challenges, to be able to deal with them successfully. People underestimate the prayer. You can't fix everything. You can't deal with everything the way you would like to. Pray. Don't forget about prayer. Okay, and last but not least, I left the easy things to do for the end. There's some quick tips that can help for stress at home that we sometimes forget about, and they're so beautiful, so special, and so easy. One of them is music. Turn on the music, your favorite music, but not Persian music, because it's sad and depressing. Most of it, right? Happy music, good music, soothing music, inspiring music. Don't you notice the change in mood after listening to a beautiful tune? Everybody, right? It's just so natural. Why? Because the rabbis tell us that the music speaks to the soul. It's not your body that is benefiting from it. You're not eating a steak here. It's the music is directly affecting the soul. So it's something that we sometimes forget about. If you have access to some good music, turn it on from time to time. Another idea that sometimes is really helpful is comedy. Comedy, you want to, see something that is comic, either a show or play, or somebody that gives a certain presentation in a very comical way. It makes you laugh. You have no idea how good this is. We need to laugh. Laughter is there for a reason, right? Why did God allow us to laugh? Because laughing is important. As Solomon himself said, there's a time for everything. Yes, during time of mourning, God forbid, we're sad. But be happy. At other times, be happy. And if you can't bring yourself to be happy, then have somebody cause it. Get somebody to make you laugh. So sometimes a comedy can do it, can do the trick. Another idea that I find from my personal experience extremely beneficial for a couple, go out on a weekend together without the kids and without the cell phone. Nothing. Just you. Talk. Spend time with each other. You don't do it enough. And after you've gone away for 2-3 days, you say, why don't we do this more often? That's what you will say. As long as you didn't spend too much money in the hotel. Because then you'll say, oh, we shouldn't have gone to such an expensive place. But hopefully you will have no regrets. You go to a good place, you enjoy yourself, walk together, and listen to each other, and just, relax. It's necessary. We're living in a very stressful time. Go out without the kids. What are grandparents for? Let them babysit the kids a little bit, or a good friend. Don't use that as an excuse. I can't do it, I have little kids. No, that's just an excuse. It's not a good excuse. You have to force yourself at least once or twice a year to go away yourself. Let me tell you what I do. My kids, like anybody's kids, sometimes get stressed out because of school, even though today, Baruch Hashem, they're all grown up. But still, sometimes they're stressed. Things happen in life. You have to try your best to change the subject and make a joke so you can get them to laugh. I sometimes tickle them just to lower the tension. I go behind their backs and surprise them. Because otherwise, they will remain stressed. You got to do something immediately. Right? Bring some humor, a joke, change the subject, something light. You will see it works. As long as they're not bothered that you tickled them or you did something, I can do it and get away with it. Depending, of course, on your own personal situation. Got to release the pressure, the tension in the house. Okay, so we've covered some ideas, some tips, advice. Somebody has tried all of this and still he has doubts whether he's getting ahead in life or not. People must realize that there's no quick cure to any situation. And because of that, the rabbis advise us never minimize even a little bit of a success. If you succeeded a little bit, don't minimize that. Don't expect immediate results, but appreciate the fact that perhaps you did accomplish something. You did succeed partially, so don't minimize a partial success. One of the famous sayings that I like to use in all kinds of situations is the famous, I guess you can call it poetical expression that rhymes that the Even Ezra put together. And he says like this, I'm going to say it in Hebrew and English. He says, Ha'avar ayin, ha'atid adayin, ha'hoveh keheref ayin, da'aga minayin. It all rhymes. It says, the past is gone. The future has not arrived yet. The present will be over before you know it. Then why worry? Why worry? The past is gone. The milk has been spilled, right? The past is gone. The future's not here yet, so why you worry about the future? Right? People are worried and tense and nervous about the future. Past is gone, the future's not here yet, because anything could happen. And the present will be over before you know it. So why worry? But in Hebrew it rhymes. What are you worrying about? If it's something that you can do something about it, then do it. If it's past, you can't do it, forget it. If it's in the future, who knows what will happen in the future? So there's no reason to worry. People who are very stressed out at work, perhaps one advice that we can tell them is that be happy that you have a job. Other people don't have any job. And the situation could change tomorrow. It doesn't mean that it's going to be tomorrow the way it is today. All kinds of things can happen. Do your best. A job can be very stressful. I'm not saying no. It could be. But it's the right outlook that is important here. You have a job. It pays well. Be thankful. If it doesn't, if everything is wrong, then obviously maybe you should look for another job. What do you do if you're stuck in traffic? That could be stressful.
Turn on the radio.
No, not the radio. The music.
Yeah, the
Good
music
music.
on the radio.
Yeah, who told you the music of the radio will be good music? You can't control that. Remember?
91.5.
Yeah, no. Get yourself some good music that you know for sure your favorite songs for the next 45 minutes or an hour and a half in traffic, or a CD of a lecture. But be careful to concentrate on the road, as long as you're not distracted, right? Don't try to learn Japanese or Chinese while you're driving in traffic, because that can get you distracted. To learn a difficult language, to learn something that's difficult while in traffic is not the best place to learn to do so. But music, something light, a Torah lecture, you have time. Why don't you use that time in a good way? Learn something or enjoy some good music, either one. What do you do if something broke in the house, an expensive crystal? It's going to stress everybody out. It's your fault. Why did you do it? Why did you trip it? Why did you put it over here? This causes stress. I'm only using a few examples that I can think of, that come up from time to time, that bring stress, and that sometimes we don't react right. Well, one reaction is, I guess it was meant to be. It's an atonement for something.
Right.
Thank God that nobody got hurt. It's just a glass. It's just money, right? That's one way of dealing with it. But also remember that every kind of situation like that that comes up at home or at work that is very, very painful, it's a loss of some kind, it's also a challenge from heaven. It's a nisayon mishamayim. We're always being tested and challenged how we're going to react, because these are lessons that we're going to learn. So it's important to always react positively. And to react positively, one has to have the proper outlook of what this means. Why did this happen? And then, no big deal. Until after you get used to this, you don't even ask what happened. Just clean it up and throw it in the garbage. Yeah. And last but not least, it is very, very important, what we mentioned in the very beginning of the lecture, is that we not be distracted. Life is short. We're here for a short visit. Each one of us has a mission, but many times we get distracted. The trick is not to get distracted and to focus on what is truly important, priorities of life, and don't waste our time with things that are tafil, that are secondary. Life is short. Before you know it, it's over. Be careful not to be distracted by things that really don't matter so much. And many, many times it's those things that don't matter that cause us the most stress and aggravation in life. What matters? A good relationship with one's spouse, with one's children, with one's neighbors, with God, of course. A good name, a good reputation, performance of good deeds, charity. These things are normal things. These are valuable things. These are things that everybody, I think every human being somewhat appreciates, right? But not everybody emphasizes them. And they forget about them. Why? Because they get distracted. And that is what Kohelet, what Solomon was telling us. Don't forget. The vast majority of things that you will see is heaven havalim. It's a bunch of vanities. They're not so important. Why get caught up in this craze and suffer and tension and nervousness and stress? For what? For things that don't matter? So if one can isolate the things that really, really are important, that really matter the most, God willing, he will be able to focus only on them and keep a cool head.